What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Cult of Recreationalism podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Morris, and I am here with Chase Ingram and Bill Grundler from the Get With The Programming podcast. We've got Captain America and the Wolverine here today, you guys.
I'm Captain America.
Oh, wait, Bill's not Captain America?
That's me.
You have a soundboard?
I do.
Oh, I need to get one of those.
Dude, we've been doing this a little while now. Come on now. We're not new to this game.
I'll be honest. I watched a lot of your guys' stuff at the beginning, but I haven't watched as much recently, just life and everything. But
All good, bro. It's a busy time and there's a lot of stuff out there.
But guess what I brought? My bub in my cup.
Dude.
See, that was good. I already had mine. I drank mine during class that I had just before this. So,
is there anything better than the coaching coffee? Like 5 a.m. just sitting like whiteboard. You can smell it while you're talking to the gym members. Like my favorite thing was getting to the gym. I would get to the gym a good 15 or 20 minutes before the 5 even started to make coffee in my office and just sit there in darkness and just
soak it all out.
Try to get less angry that I was there.
No, so mine, I would always drink way more than you would coffee.
True.
So I would have, if I was coaching the early classes, it doesn't matter the time of the day. It could be nighttime. I would still be making coffee. But for the early morning, I would, at my house, I'm doing my pour over because that's my routine. I do my pour over. You know, got it all in there, and I basically do the whole pot, the whole thing. I put one in one thermos, and that's my freshie. Then I have my second thermos, which is for like once, you know, I got my drive to the gym and starting it up, and that one usually goes down pretty fast. And then the next one is like the one that I sip on for like the next 2 classes in a row.
I do that too because Nathan, by the way,
did you want to even talk at all, Nathan? Or we're going to take over your show.
Bring podcast host onto the podcast. All right, welcome to the show, everybody.
I'm out.
You're gonna look pretty. The thing I've been doing now is that I'll make the pot of coffee. Obviously, I like the medium roasts from Bubs. That is my favorite flavor. Bill's more of a dark roast guy.
I'm a dark guy.
That's what this dark roast.
Oh yeah.
I don't have that much. I have some hair on my chest. However, I don't have as much.
I think I just singed all the taste buds in my mouth. So I need the bold flavor to get that in there.
But what I was doing is like I'll get just a mug and I'll pour first coffee in because it doesn't hold the heat as much. But then I'll get like a Yeti that locks it in for a good hour plus.
Oh yeah.
So I don't have the taste bud singeing as you might have, Bill. So like I don't have it's too hot. I'm like, all right, I'm going to save this. I'm going to sip on this because I can drink this. This is my right now coffee.
Right.
It's not going to harm me right now coffee. And then I know that this guy's waiting for me. So like in the 5 a.m. class coaching whiteboard coffee is good to go. And then I know when by 7 or 6:30 when I'm done coaching, that guy's waiting for me and it's at the perfect temperature.
So I'm telling you, everyone always asks why I drink my coffee. It's like, do you need it to wake up? I'm like, I don't have the caffeine sensitivity with that at all. It doesn't affect me. It's just like I always say this, it's a warm blanket.
Yeah.
It's my little in the middle of the world and all the crazy thing that's happening. It's just me like pulling up the blanket.
I love that. All the things that are wrong in the world can be cured in this little
At least in my world, you know how every little kid, you get under your blanket and the world is good. Right?
Yep.
I was a late adopter to coffee. Like I didn't drink coffee at all through college, and it was like my late 20s before I started drinking coffee.
Same, dude. 27.
And then I was like 26, 27. And then it was at a job that I had, and we were planning out like the next few months of like the roadmap. Like, here's what we're gonna do. Like, here's our plans and all that. And we were like Friday afternoon, we're sitting down and we're getting it done. And at lunch, a couple of guys like, we're gonna go get coffee. Do you want to go? And I was like, I mean, I'll go, but like, I'm not. And we're there, and one guy's like, "Do you want anything?" And it was hot, and I was like, "I guess I'll get like a cold brew or something." Do you want anything?
Dang, stepped into the fire, dude.
I had no idea. And they're like, "Okay." And I was like, "What size should I get?" Like, "We're just gonna get you a tall," because we went to Starbucks. And then
That's
got
good
back.
friends, because I would have got you a venti. And
Yeah, right?
Totally ruined your day.
But we went back, and I Rain Manned. Like, we had this whole whiteboard set up with like the next like 6 months. They're like, "Okay, we need to get this." I'm like, "Okay, we can do that this Friday to Sunday, but if we do that, we're gonna have to make sure we move this around." And they're like, "What about this?" Like, "Oh, perfect. We can just shift these 2 weeks down." Like, it was supposed to take all afternoon. We were done in like an hour.
I'm telling you, it's a magic elixir. Mine was the same way. Mine was, I didn't touch anything. My whole family, no one in my family drank coffee.
Really?
Like if my grandmother came to visit, that's the only time I ever smelled coffee in the house, because she would like it. But we were like, ew. We were an iced tea family. Arizona, we were iced tea family.
Yeah.
But it was when I joined Fire, and then every morning, the coffee was on. You'd sit down, you'd do that little crew change, exchange of what happened and what do you need to stock up in the med bags or whatever the stuff is. And we would always sit down and we'd drink coffee. And I was like, well, shit, okay. And I didn't know what was good and what was bad. And it was Folgers, just bullshit house coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And
Costco.
and then I would have whatever the creamer that they had. And it was the cremate. Cremate. Is that what it is?
Cremate. I hope it's not cremate, because
not to get cremate, but it was the big. It's the
Something
sweetest
Coffee Mate.
Coffee Mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cremate.
It was
like, hey, listen, these guys didn't make it, but good news, guys, we
we're
got
firefighters. You're gonna get cremated
for the next 2 months.
But it wasn't even coffee. It was the sweetest chocolate milk with a whatever, and then it just sort of devolved down to now I'm just dark roast with some heavy cream. And my bubs, of course, my collagen, and my MCT.
Double bub, like I don't know if you guys have picked up on that phrase.
You need that.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
But
I remember Bill texted me. He's like, "Hey, like, can I put this MCT in like all of my?" And I was like, "Well, it's a fat and it's an oil, so like, unless you want the shits, maybe just limit it to one to start. Because it is a diuretic if you take too much."
Where they were talking about fish oil quantities about the statement.
Bill, I'm gonna circle your story. I'm gonna come full circle with that story you told. My parents, my mom drinks coffee now, but it's more like I think she just likes the process and like it's like a nice morning thing. My dad's dad, we all grew up in the same town. He drank coffee all the time. My dad never did, but my grandpa was cremated and buried in a Folgers coffee can.
No.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
Like Big Lebowski style?
Yeah. So my grandparents they were cattle farmers. They were just very frugal, and they had one plot when they passed away. By the time I graduated college, all my grandparents had passed away, but he was the first to pass away. So we were in high school, I think, and we're driving to like the cemetery. They had gotten one cemetery plot, not two. They got one. They're both getting cremated and buried in the same plot. But anyways, we're walking out there, and my dad, like, there's a coffee can in the back. I thought we were just taking it because it was like my grandpa's like favorite. Like, we're just gonna like set it there, like you set like a bottle of whiskey or something.
Grandpa did drink a lot of coffee. What a great thing to bury with him.
And so my dad's like, "Hey, bring that." And I was like, "Okay." And so I'm standing there like, "All right, we're gonna bury him. Nathan, give me the can." I'm like, "What?" Like,
you didn't even know that was your
grandpa.
He's just like, "Give me grandpa." You're like, what are you talking about? No,
dude. Yeah, it becomes part of you without even knowing that it becomes part of you. Like, it's just my little thing. I just like it. But I don't think I make a big deal of it. I can see elements of that where there are 4 different Starbucks in my area that they all know. Like, I walk in, they know. If I pre-order my
not one or
4.
Your favorite local 4.
Well, it's the one onto the gym, the one if I'm going to like pick up, Jolie or something like. Well, I mean, whatever. They know me, and so if I do a mobile order, they know it's me, so they know I'm coming in. But it's funny where, like, if you think about like, what am I going to get my dad for Father's Day or for birthday? It's, always, the classic TV version is like, I'm going to get like a tie for him or a golf club or whatever. My daughter knows that if she ever is in question, then it's like a bag of coffee, a coffee mug. She went to Catalina. Her mom took her to Catalina. And when she's out there, she was all excited because she got me a sticker that says "Death before decaffeinated." And I'm like, you are your dad's daughter right now.
That's nice.
It's like she knows. So it just becomes that thing. It's funny. Everyone at the gym, do you ever not drink coffee? I'm like, this is the same one, man. I don't have like 8 cups of coffee during the day. I can, but I don't. But I just have coffee with me all the time.
My college swim coach, the assistant, would have do you guys remember like the old gas station, like styrofoam plastic?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how old I am, dude? Do you have any idea?
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Like the ones you see at the county fair?
Yeah. He
All the
would
old-
have one of those to where when he entered the pool deck, from the other side of the pool, you could smell the coffee. And he would come in. His name is Jim Henry. He'd come in and just be like clapping his hands. All right, boys. And we're all sitting there like, shut up.
It's 5:30 in the morning.
He has so much energy, and then you see it. You're like,
Oh, got it.
okay.
Got it.
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. We do at my gym, the 6 a.m. on Mondays and Thursdays is an Olympic lifting class. And so on Thursdays, we do Coffee Thursdays, where we just kind of trade, like everybody just brings in a bag, and like every week we just kind of like work our way through. But so like usually it's Jim and Todd are the two in charge. Like, you guys make coffee, everybody else is going to start warming up. And like, it's great because people like getting their barbells out, and then like they're walking out with like 4 mugs, like super slow.
Like Oktoberfest. How those chicks have you seen like some of those waitresses that like they can hold 8 per hand?
Stein, like 4 in each hand. Yeah.
And they stack them like this, and they put another. I'm like, you guys are.
They get finger extensions for that kind of stuff. I think.
I can't even hold 2 mugs in one hand that are filled with actual fluid, let alone like 8 steins per. Like, that's insane.
And they're hook gripping too.
That's a great. What a great thing you guys have, because like you're just lifting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because it actually started one day where we were just there. We hadn't started this yet. We had to have a coffee maker at the gym, and everybody was just kind of tired. It was one of those mornings where everybody was just kind of out. I'm like, hey guys, if I go make some coffee, I didn't even fit. And they're like, yes. And I was like, yes, absolutely. And I had mugs in the gym, like for sale, like just you can buy it. And everybody's like, can we all buy a mug and just leave it here? And I was like, yeah. So I bought like a rack to hang all the mugs on. I sold like 8 mugs that morning.
Dude, that's so
amazing.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Hey, then I'm going to break this whole train that we're not even on because we're totally derailing your show. But you look fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I mean, when you coached at Big D, and like, you look awesome.
I was a little fluffier then. It was my fluffy stage.
Yeah. You were a little fluffy. I just want to let you know, whatever it is you're doing, CrossFit, hopefully,
it's the beard. It's the beard. It's not CrossFit. It's the beard.
Yeah, it's nice.
You know what I've got? Like, did you guys like lining up? That took me forever to learn, and I feel like over the last 2 years, I've really dialed in that, and that's changed like my jawline.
Oh yeah,
that's what. Yeah. Chase, when I was coaching for you, I was fluffier. I was a little bit. I was actually heavier before I got to Big D to coach, and then when I moved back to Denver, I lost like 30 pounds almost over the course of like a year. But I had 30. It was like I didn't need to be that heavy. I was
thank you for pitching that, by the way, that we helped get to that point. That's,
I was. There was a lot of French toast. It was my French toast phase.
I love French toast.
Got egg. It's good. It's healthy.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. But I was like, oh, if my neck's getting bigger, I'll just grow a beard. That'll hide it. No, you just look like a fat guy with a beard. Like,
the fact that was even like a thought process, my neck is fat. I'll just get a beard.
Yeah.
It's like a neck sweater.
Didn't work.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, so I actually prepared nothing for this because I knew what I wanted to talk about with you guys. I want to talk about, because programming, and also guys, sorry for the listeners out there, Bill and Chase host the Get With The Programming podcast. You guys are posting multiple times a week now, right?
Yeah.
We've been crazy lately.
Game as of recently. So we would do like maybe an episode a week when we first started. We just hit 4 years in March.
That's crazy.
Well, this was our COVID project.
Yeah.
Some people make sourdough or got fat. And Bill and I started a podcast.
We just wanted to hang. See, we know what it was is we couldn't, like, we would do all of our broadcasting stuff all the time, and so we would almost, probably almost hang out about once a month doing something somewhere. You know, a couple times there'd be a couple months where we wouldn't, but then like we do, you know, twice in a month we'd see each other, do whatever. And we would always, I mean, we're athletes, we're coaches, we're affiliate owners, we're analysts, and we would talk about the programming stuff or just, you know, competition stuff or whatever. And when COVID kind of hit, we weren't able to do that. Chase, I think it was around New Year's that you were talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I want to do is I want to do a podcast, but I just don't know, and I'm not really sure.
Nobody's going to listen.
Yeah, no one's going to listen. And then it was cool because he's like, hey, come on me for the first one. And I'm like, yeah, dude, totally. I think it'd be awesome. And then it was just fun. And then the next one, he's like, hey, do you just want to be with me all the time on this? I'm like, fuck yeah. That'd be awesome. Are you kidding?
On air, like in the middle of the show. Cause like, I've been wanting to start a podcast for like 2 years at this point. And I just talk myself out of it. Just like everybody, when they start something, it's like, oh, nobody's going to listen. It's going to be dumb. Like, what a terrible idea. And then finally, I would start to tell certain people that I know would hold me accountable. So that's when I told Bill, I was like, hey, I want to do this. And he's like, yeah, dude, great. Programming, awesome. Yeah. And then in the middle of the show, I was like, hey, do you want to just do this with me? I don't want to do this alone.
That's like when you're a little kid and you ask if someone can come spend the night in front of your parents. So like they can't say no because the kid is right there.
Yep.
That's what you did.
Yeah. I would do, my wife, I do this sometimes. Like if I forget to ask to do something, I'll ask to do something in front of the group that asked me to come with them. You're that kid. They're like talking about it. She's like, what are they talking about? Like, oh yeah. We're supposed to go golfing tomorrow for 6 hours. What do you say, guys?
Like, now I'm an asshole if I say no. Yeah.
Ashley's so tough. She'd be like this. No. She'd just look at me right and square in the face and be like, yeah, I'm. And she would be that parent that would look at the kid and go, no.
Yeah.
No. Like, not even bat an eye. Like, nuh-uh.
Yeah. Nope. You didn't make your bed. We already had this conversation. Yeah. She would go to my friends and just be like, hey, you know that thing you guys had planned for 3 months? He never told me about it, so he's not going. I'm like, damn it.
Wow. All right. Well, okay. So yeah, get with the programming podcast. Yeah. There's guys, go check it out. I'll put links in the bio and the description and all that kind of stuff for all that. For Bill and Chase, their individual stuff. But what I wanted to talk about is programming. But now I want to talk about, like, you remember when CrossFit started and people were like, are we going to be able to do this when we're like 50, 60 years old? And it's like, okay, it's been long enough now. Yes, the answer is yes, maybe not to the same level. But what I want to talk about is like, okay, we have like a 15-year-old kid coming in right now. How do let's program for him, but maybe if we program by like decades, or how do we want to do this of like, how do we program, like this kid is 15, he's going to work out until he's 85 years old. Yeah. How do you start him? How do you build over time? When do you start scaling back because of age and all that? Like, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
So we're going to program, but not,
I like it.
We're not going to write it out. We're just going to talk it through. So,
does kid do anything? Like, is he a sport kid? Does he want to be a wrestler in the Olympics? Does he want to be a football player in the NFL? Is he doing anything now, or he's just going to be like a worker outer kid?
Clean slate him, like just a kid that wants to get in shape.
Yeah, I'd say clean slate. Maybe he plays like a sport in high school, but like he's not trying to go D1 or anything like that.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Really early on, I think the enticing part of programmers with, I would say, young teen athletes who are like in peak puberty is like, hey, we're going to get you strong. We're going to lift weights while your body's just like ready for whatever, you get the fastest adaptation during that time period, right? Like 12 to 20, right? Your body will just change so dramatically when it comes to fitness and training. But I heard Todd Widman talk about this and he was speaking more towards CrossFit kids, but the same thing applies to, like, I think novice starters is like, you don't need to chase weights. You don't need to make them stronger. You don't need to do any of that because their bodies will naturally take over when it's time to take over. But the best thing you can do for a brand new athlete, regardless of age, is the charter that CrossFit has, right? You have mechanics, consistency, intensity. Like teaching them how to do these things with the least amount of weight, with number one focus on skills, technique, and movement patterns is by far, or is going to set them up for life when, like, you don't need to be jumping hurdles. And I felt like that way, Bill, I don't know if you can attest this, but like whenever I played a sport, and like when I did swimming and water polo as my mainstay sport, and in swimming, I tried so hard to get in shape or better at swimming fast because I started really late. Like my sophomore year of high school is when I started really trying to become a swimmer. Is I created some bad habits that just stuck with me because no one just like forced me to do it right, or they told me to and I didn't listen. And then I had to break those habits like later on down the road. And with CrossFit, it was a really cool opportunity because at the tail end of my swimming career, if I had just like spent time on that one habit, I would have improved as a swimmer, but I just feel like I didn't have time to waste because when you do change a habit, it tends to slow you down or make you weaker. It's like it's a side step, not necessarily a back step. So I never did that. And once I came to CrossFit, I was like, clean slate. All those lessons and things I would complain about myself later in my career, I have an opportunity to start over because it's a brand new sport. And not everybody gets that opportunity. And I would hate to like have a kid come in at 15 and us have to revisit how to snatch without pulling early when he's 35. That's
Totally.
where I would start.
Well, and I think with me, so like I'm working with a bunch of baseball kids right now. We have one of my members he's a ex-baseball player, and so he's got his own teams and kids that he has running that are 14 and under. So I'm actually working with 11 and unders once a week and 12 to 14 once a week, baseball kids. And the reason I asked about the sport thing was because a lot of those, the mindset for a lot of young kids, if they are into any sport, is the parents overload them into that one sport. And it's like, if they're doing baseball, it's all baseball. They got to do baseball. They have to have a baseball trainer. They only throw they only can throw. They do club team and they do the regular team and they do everything. And what was great working with Tim, who was the ex MLB guy, was after he was done, he would show me, he'd get all excited because he'd show me his shoulders. He's like, look, they're equal now. My shoulders are the same now. I'm not lopsided. And like with baseball players, they're such a lopsided athlete. They throw one side, they step to the one side, they hit one way, they swing one way. So with these kids, what I really wanted to do, and we all know that, like, every little kid under 3 years old squats perfectly and their body moves mechanically the way it's supposed to. They don't have the strength to do certain things, whatever, but like it moves mechanically correct. And then we get lazy and we stop doing that. Or our diet changes and our body changes, and then now we can't squat the same way. And so what I've done is made a big deal of pushing the basic movements. I mean, and it's literally the 9 foundational movements: the squats, the front squats, the overhead squats, the presses, the deadlifts, and a cleanish type movement. And we would just hammer that in every single day. I mean, we would do, depending on the group, the younger kids it would be more of a playing version of that. But the playtime that we would do, the games or the stuff that we would do, or the challenges that we would do, would be based off those certain movements. I mean, it's so funny that if you're going to talk to a little kid about doing a deadlift, and we all see them doing a deadlift with like a kettlebell, and look like a gorilla, big chest up in the front, that type of thing. And then the older kids, like, I changed it from the gorilla because that seemed a little silly. So I'm like, okay, you guys all like football, right? And they're baseball players, and the baseball kids, oh yeah, and they all have their teams. And I'm like, okay, well, you're on the line, and you need to be able to see me. And if you can't see me when I'm coming at you, that means that your head's down and your butt's up. So working on those standard movements and drilling those in, because what's crazy is even as they may learn the movements, but as they're going through puberty, limb lengths are changing, coordination is changing. And I don't mean like over the 1 year to another year. I'm talking weekly. A kid can just be nails on movement 1 week, and the next week they're gangly. They're like a gangly, deer. And it's like you're not that much taller. Like, what the heck just happened? So to get really technical, I think is really, really hard. But I think it's basic movements, and yeah, they don't need to You don't need to overload them with weight at all. Like, that's not a thing. But at the same time, I don't like, because there's an element of belief out there from parents and from other coaches that like no weight is appropriate. They shouldn't use any weight. I'm like, that's not necessarily true either.
That old wives' tale.
Totally. Yeah, it'll stunt your growth. So what I look for, and Chase basically said the same thing, was it's about how they're moving. How they're moving will dictate what they're able to do. I'm not pushing weight on these kids, but some kids, if they're moving perfect and they can have some weight on, okay, cool. As long as you're moving right, I'm good. But then I also make sure that, like, you know, I don't need to do a 1 rep max with a 14-year-old. I'm not worried about that.
Right.
I want them to be doing like 5 rep stuff. So we're building capacity, we're building, you know, time under tension, building that foundation, just like what Chase was talking about. So as they get older, they can get into those types of things. Because if they're moving like crap, then when I put a time clock on them and we start programming for when they're like a little bit older and they have these other sports, they're going to be chasing the clock and they will be moving like crap. And I have a trio of sisters right now. One is a freshman in high school, one is in 8th grade, one's in 7th grade. And the 7th grader by far moves better than than the other two, by far. And I think it's because she was 1 year younger than all of them when they started. And the oldest one, she just wants to make sure that she beats the other sisters. And like, she is a little bit stronger, but it doesn't do, it's just sloppy. I mean, bad movements, and it's like constantly having to tell her, bring the weight down, you know, or me putting the weights on her for it that way. So that beginning foundationary time is super important.
Yeah. Chase, you mentioned Todd and like the CrossFit kids. I met him years ago, and I actually worked with for a while. It was, I'll say like the age range was like 10 to 14-year-olds, but they were competitive swimmers. And he was telling me, he's like, and he at the time had worked with or something. He's like, you have to get their cores. He's like, they have really strong shoulders. They're very competitive, so they can keep moving. He's like, but they're at that age where they're the inflatable tube mans outside that use car lots.
And they stay that way through their entire swimming career, by the way.
And we would, I mean, in the squat, like it was like little things like, hey, like they could squat deep enough, but it was like super rounded. And hunched over. And so it was like really focusing on like, okay, you're going to flex your abs. Now you're going to squat while keeping your abs flexed and stuff like that. And it helped quite a bit. I'm glad I had that conversation with him. And I would have figured it out over time, but he like gave me the shortcut of like, oh, make sure you do this with them.
No, that's really smart, actually.
The other thing was, and you learned it in the CrossFit you guys have done the CrossFit Kids course.
Yeah.
The like fitness needs to be fun. Of like, burpees are not a punishment. If you're misbehaving, you have to go sit down and you don't get to do burpees. And like instilling that in these kids at a young age is like really important.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The thing is, I mean, look at PE now. Kids don't like PE. I mean, whatever they call it now, if they even do it, they don't like it because it's not fun. And the only ones that are having fun, like as if they're playing basketball that day, and the kids that like basketball play that. But with whatever team and with whatever age group I'm working with, I tell the coach, I tell the kids, I tell the parents, I'm like, look, my job is not to I don't work with these kids to make them better baseball players. Right. I work with these kids to make them better athletes. I work the machine. And if the machine moves well, has more explosivity, has more flexibility, better balance, better coordination, all the tenets of CrossFit, then you layer whatever thing on top of that, and they will be better. Guaranteed. A wrestler, a baseball player, a football player, a swimmer, a golfer, a gymnast, a volleyball player, it doesn't matter. The machine works. I will run the machine, and then you put the specifics on top of that. And I think that the other thing is that with a lot of the kids, because they're getting very single sport driven, they may gain some skills on that one particular thing, but they lose their athleticism. And you have to have a powerful machine to be a successful athlete. I mean, you can win early just because like you've gone through puberty a little faster than some of the other kids, so you have some coordination. But when that stuff's done, what's your foundation look like? Yeah. And I want to broaden the base of that fitness triangle for these kids, and then they can go wherever they want to go after that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's actually really good. Like talked right there, Bill, about like the foundation and like instilling that in the younger ages. Like as these kids now are aging up, they're going to college, maybe they're starting their career, they're mid-20s or something like that. What does training look like now as we progress?
It's not unlike what you had when I would say like any CrossFit coach with any member. It's like it's the same checklist of things. How is your movement? How good is it? How consistent are you with it at either high speed or high intensity and heavier weights? And if it gets off the rails, you just monitor that. But in that, I would say like you're post college or maybe in college. So let's just say 20 to 30 range. 20 to 30 range is like, that's pretty much your peak time of, I would say, athletic potential and development, or like when you're riding basically what you worked on from 10 to 20. And from there, you're challenging and testing them at every corner, making sure the bumpers of mechanics and technique are still there. So it's like, oh, how do we know we advanced them? It's like, well, we just try. Hey, let's throw a little weight on there. Moving well, great. Now let's have you go a little faster, a little harder. Okay, we're getting a little sloppy. I'm not going to take the weight off. I'm just going to slow the athlete down. And then I'm just going to keep funneling through this little mechanics, consistency, intensity, time, like order of operations, and just like work my way through that. But I think that's a good time to maybe experiment and take chances.
To test some stuff?
Yeah, some stuff.
That's where you're resilient, man. You're resilient at this time.
Like you've been training for 10, like say 10 to 20 or 15 to 20. Like you've been training your body and all these other things for a decade. Now 20 to 30, now we get to test. We get to compete. We do something local. Like I would encourage those athletes, like we sign up for the Open and maybe we'll make quarterfinals and then we'll see how that progresses. When there's never like, if they're just, like I said, if they're just a white box person looking for fitness and that's it, then it's like, hey, we're going to focus a little bit more on goals in the workout, benchmarks that we do. I was in a gym this morning where they did Jackie. And I was also in the gym where RX Plus was an option, of which made me want to blow my brains out as I was looking at that. I was like, it's Jackie. It's only, that's it. There's no.
The plus is go faster.
It was like 1,500 meter row, 75 pounds in the thrusters and chest repose. Like, why is this? No, RX Plus is just faster. Like that's RX Plus. Did you do it? Did you do 1,000 meter row, 50 empty bar thrusters and 30 pull-ups? Yes. What was your time? Doesn't matter what it is. There's no such thing as an RX Plus. We go faster.
Right.
And so you start setting those, I would say you start setting more definitive goals in that time period and doing tests or competitions or something, like I said, test and experiment at that age.
Yeah, I think testing, this is the time to test or testing for goals. You'll have probably a broader chance of kids that will be involved in some sort of activity, whether it's a sport, whether it's a club, whether they're getting into hiking and they want to go backpacking or they want to do, Yosemite Half Dome or something. I mean, there's an activity normally that these kids at that time frame have the time to do. So it's like, okay, you're gonna be more physical. So now what we can do is use this to hedge against all of the physicality that you're going to be doing. Is it going to get, do you want to do, it's funny, I didn't really know that. I never did this stuff per se, but because I was always busy doing other wrestling and whatever. But there's a lot of people that go on like 40-day hikes, like across Spain and across like Portugal and Machu Picchu and all of those types of things. Cool. And that's I didn't really know that was a thing when I was young. I was busy doing my other regular sports. But if that's something that you want to do, like you got to train to get into something like that. And, you're already having youth on your side, we said you're going to be more resilient. So this is the time to push the envelope on those outer limits. I mean, I don't want someone during that time frame to be afraid to try something heavy, to be afraid to go a little bit faster, to be afraid to go a little bit longer. I want them to know that, like, okay, your mechanics are so solid and we have such a foundation on you that you can take and it sounds bad, I'll go this way. You can test the opportunity, not take a risk, but you can test the opportunity of, like, let's see what you can do. Let's see how far. Let's see how long. Let's see what you can take. And again, using your mechanics, working on all that, it's the same template. In all reality, that is what makes CrossFit so great, is whether you're young, whether you're in like middle time, or you're starting to get into the older age groups, the prescription and the template doesn't change. It all is based on that person. What they can do and how they move and what their goals are and what they're trying to accomplish. But like, I totally agree with Chase. Like, this is the time. It's the time to have some fun. It's the time to see where you can go, because like, you already like fitness now. You already like the idea of, like, what do CrossFitters say when there's like a really super hard workout? Like, dude, that kicked my ass. It was so fun.
So awesome.
It's like, we are that way because we have this hedge against that. So you have these younger kids that they can do, where they can come up, they're on the ground just obliterated, and they're laughing because they're like, dude, that was rad. That was so nuts. But the template is the same. You protect them, but you push them.
Yeah.
You're not reckless with it. But the thing is that you can take those chances. They have the strength. The joints are all together right now. The shoulders are tight. The knees aren't creaking yet. So, have some fun with your fitness. It's a time to have fun with the fitness, for sure.
And I know you steered away from the risk word, and I don't think that's necessarily, like, it can be taken as a negative, like, oh, taking a risk means you are risking, like you are intentionally doing something dangerous or something with the intent to hurt yourself. But anything physical is not without risk.
Totally.
Right. The safest, I'll say this, the safest place you could be is never leaving your home or getting off your couch. But now we know that the long-term risk that you're taking is quite the opposite. There's risk in everything that you do. And I think at this 20 to 30 age is like, this is a great time for opportunistic risks. Right. Where there's a higher chance of success and excitement in life experience when it comes to that. And it's, I think people might like, why are you talking about life experience inside a CrossFit gym? What is that? It's like, no, it stems so far beyond that, because when you look at, especially the nature of things now from like a sociological standpoint, is like, you want to become a better person. It's like, that involves being able to like interact as a human being with other human beings. And there is no better place to experiment on that, I think, than a CrossFit gym, because the CrossFit gym to me is the safest place in the world to fail at something.
Right.
And you do that through the safest avenue, where it's just like working out. And everyone is so risk averse these days, and there's safe spaces and untriggered atmospheres, and I never want to be challenged, because if I get challenged, then that means I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, that means there's something wrong with me, and like everything's so personal and internalized. It's like, no, you got to understand, is like, life is failure, life is suffering, and the greatest gift we can give anybody is a place where they can fail and suffer with a low, I would say, permanent repercussion when it comes to that. Is like, yeah, I fail all the time. I'm not afraid to fail anymore. Therefore, I'm better built for failure when it presents itself. The same with suffering, right? It's like, oh, maybe you do get like a little injury here in that time frame. It's like the way you have to work through that, right? Both physically, emotionally, and mentally. Like, all of these things are so vital outside of just like burpees and pull-ups.
Yeah.
Have you ever forced someone to fail at a back squat?
Yes.
Same. And the thing is, here's and it wasn't meant to be a trick question. What I want, and I tell people in my gym here too, and I'm not saying that they have to go to this length every single time, but what I want them to know is that, like, if you're squatting correctly and you're in a good position, and you take a weight and you go down with a squat and you can't come back up again. Okay, because most people, if they're not a lifting type person, that if they can't come up, that means that barbell is going to smash the life out of them right into the ground and crush them into the ground. And what I want for them is to fail so that they know that like they can fail and still be okay. They can fail and realize, okay, what happened on that? They can fail on a bar muscle up. They can fail on, achieving a certain round on this particular workout. They can fail on the fact that like they didn't show up and, their other friends were giving them shit for not showing up in that class, and they're like, oh, okay, you guys, you got me. Where you're right, it's okay. You're not gonna get personally like attacked and crushed and be stunted in your life because something didn't go your way. You want to find more things that don't. I mean, CrossFit. Look at all the things we have to do. There's a lot of stuff that you have to be good at if you want to be good at CrossFit. And so you can be really good in some things and really bad in other things. And so that like your laundry list of things you need to work on is long, And so you constantly get to work on that. And every time you fail, you get a little closer and a little closer and a little closer. And that's, I mean, to your point, Chase, like that is life. If you don't have that skill, you are not going to get very far at all.
I love actually that question. It's funny is like, I know the answer to this question and I need to articulate what that meant, but it's so a perfect example is this guy at our gym. His name is Will, right? And Will joined our gym when we started like a 30-minute dumbbell only class just to get people moving. And it wasn't even supposed to mimic CrossFit. It was just supposed to give them an idea of what intensity was, using functional movements and just not barbells that would scare people away.
Right.
Will is my little, scared mouse in the corner. Actually, he always found the back corner of the gym. And once he joined the CrossFit class, because I had to cancel that damn program, so he was the last person standing. I was like, Will, we're canceling this class. All right. And what Will didn't know is and I didn't know until we made him do this, how strong he was. And the reason why I'm saying I made someone fail in a back squat is because we did a back squat day and Will's like 135. I'm like, cool. And he's like, all right, 145. I'm like, no, bro, we're not jumping 5 pounds on back squat day. And we got to 185 and he's like, oh. And then we went to 205 and 225. And he's like looking at me every time he like, because like Will has never used more than 135 on deadlifts. And we finally get up to 275 and he just goes down and up. But every time he unracks the bar, he's like looking at me and he's like, I can't do this. I'm like, yes, you can. I promise you can. Right. Because you are like, you look at the speed, right? You know if they're going to get the rep or not. Yeah. But he's put on 225 more pounds on his body than he thought he would ever do in his life. And I pushed him to the point where he missed it, because then we got rid of the fear of, you've been squatting in fear for 30 minutes. We know we don't have to worry about failure until we ever get to 275 again, which you could do for 5 right now. But the fact that we know exactly where you failed helps you from now on. Also, the fact that you failed a rep and nothing bad happened to you means you never have to squat in fear again, and we can just squat. And you can take that whole scenario and just layer it on anything that you want. And when you put someone through fear and realize there's nothing to be afraid of, and let's just wrap it up or like relay it back to a programming standpoint, is that we put our athletes in positions to fail so they understand where the line is and so that they don't have to wonder where it is. That's one. And then the reason when they cross that threshold, the end of the world is not on the other side of that line of failure. It's just a lesson learned.
And then we can keep pushing that line out further.
Yeah, and then we just move the line a little bit. Yeah. When they're not looking, I just kick that cone.
That's one of my favorite scenarios though, Chase, is like I will sometimes with people, I remember this one kid, he was 18, he was getting ready to go to college, and he was the same thing, afraid to go he's a rower now in college, like at a D1 school, but he was afraid to lift. I'm like, dude, you're strong. Like, he's like big, strong guy. And like, what's your deadlift? Came in, it was like working up to a heavy single, not a 1 rep, but just a heavy single deadlift. And told me it was only like 185. And I'm like, you can pull over 300, kind of like, just no. And I was like, here's what's going to happen. I was like, I'm going to load your bar today. I'm going to tell you how many to lift and I'm going to load it. And we just like kept going. I think we got up to like 315 or something. Like I wanted him to end on a success that day. But his success was 100 more pounds than what he thought he was capable of doing. But it was one of those like, hey, I'm going to load it up. Do not do math. I don't want you looking at these plates. I don't want you trying to like, how many 25s are on here or what? I don't want you to do that.
Mind games are great. And
I was like, I'm going to tell you to lift 3 or 2 or 1. And he ended up getting like 315 that day. So
that's awesome.
I love those. And the coolest part about that, the things that they learn is really cool. But the thing that the trust you develop between coach and athlete when they don't trust you the whole process. And then when it's over, you're like, see, right? Like, I am not going to let something intentionally happen to you. I am not going to put you in harm's way for you to get hurt. I might put you in harm's way to see if you can handle the harm. Right. But like that, what that does from a coaching programming aspect, because it's a new world after that. Because instead of it's like, Will, put some weight on the bar. So he's like, no. And now it's like, okay.
I got accused of using this, and I did it apparently more than I thought that I did, and I may have brought this up on our show, Chase. But for the Open, I push our people to do the RX. I make a big deal about that. I'm like, this is a test. You're not here to get a workout today. I mean, the scales and the foundational part is there. If you want it, cool. But I am always going to advocate for you doing the open weight. So the open weights, like especially the dumbbells, like the classic, the 50s and the 35s for the men all the way through. And if we're doing a dumbbell set somewhere in there, some other workout during the year, I'll have people that will use different weights. They'll go, the guys will use, maybe they'll use 40s. The girls will be like 25s or 15s or whatever. But if they did it in the open, I will, on the programming, say, okay, we're doing dumbbell snatches. Here's a prescribed weight. 50 and 35 or your open weight, whatever you did, if it was a foundation or whatever. And then so I had one of the girls totally called me out. She's like, you baited me into this. And I go, what are you talking about? She's like, you put open weight up there, but you made me do the open weight. So now I can do the open weight. And now you're going to make me do the weight that I wouldn't have done unless I did it. And I was like, what? No, I didn't do that. What are you talking about?
You're welcome.
Like, dude, I'm telling you, head games as a coach. I mean, you have we have the programming nerding side that we do. The other side is that puzzle piece that when you work with these athletes individually, and you're developing that trust with them, you're developing that relationship with them, and it's like, I don't know, it's like the ultimate parentism where you are getting your kid or your student to do what you know they can and should do, even though they're adamantly not wanting to do it, and all of a sudden they come around and do it, and then they look back at it and you're like, God dang it, you just made me do that, and I wouldn't have done that. And you're like, oh, sorry, did I do something?
Oh, oops. I made you better. I'm sorry.
I love that. It's the best.
Okay, so that was all good. So what happens now? So we were in that 20 to 30 bracket that we were talking about. Yeah. So let's go into like the 30 to 40, 35, let's say. They're now masters. Which everybody on this call, including me, as of this year, is now masters category.
Hey, I know what. To your guy, I will still not call you that. I know there's an age group there. I mean, we called them baby masters before.
You know what's crazy? I'm in the 35 to 39 category. My placing, I am lower in the 35 to 39 category than I am in the worldwide category.
How?
That's like when I pull up like on the app, like who like Kalipa,
on the
all those
percentage
guys are in the 35 to 39.
Yeah.
Like and I just joined it, and so like I'm like 1 percentile lower in the 35 to 39 than I am in the worldwide, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
It sucks.
Dude. Yeah. Like who was Tommy Marquez like a couple years ago, because he went in and I was asking and I was like, what's it like? He's like, honestly, like wherever you finish, you're going to be about 2 percentiles higher is kind of what we're finding. That was a lie.
You are a liar.
Yeah.
40.
So, like,
I was thinking about this while we were talking, and I'll say it's like we're making big generalizations. There it is. Like in 10-year blocks, but I do like the 10-year block thing. And it's like, okay, build 10 to 20, test 20 to 30. I think 30 to 40 is when you really fine tune like processes. right? Where everything you've built on and tested and learned from, now you're perfecting. You're getting systems in place. So and then I start bringing in like nutrition. Not that it was never at the forefront, but like when you're 18, it kind of doesn't really matter what you eat. But at the same time, it'd be good to know at least what you should be. I never got that when I was younger. And recovery. I was like, hey, now we need to make sure is like, we can still do this. I'm not going to change this, but I'm bringing it as like, hey, let's make sure we get a little routine and familiarity with like what we eat and how often and when. And then listen, if we do something hard this time, is like, we might need to spend a little time like prepping the body for the next day or taking recovery or getting sleep. And I think 30 to 40 is when you start building and perfecting on those processes, which I feel like we're setting ourselves up like in that 30-year block of like build and learn, test and fail, perfect and routine at 40, which could set you up really forever after that.
Yeah, I think I would probably look at, I like the idea of perfecting the systems, but I think what I would look at is more broadening the system, because now life is kicked into play. You're having kids, you're moving, your recovery is not going to be the same. Right. So now it's just like what you said, it's not, now when you look at the whole scope of CrossFit, not CrossFit, and I say this to a lot of people now, which is always really interesting, because what will a non-CrossFit gym will say, well, we do CrossFit-like workouts. And it's like, CrossFit is not a workout. CrossFit is a fitness program, which is all of the things. It is your nutrition. It is your rest and recovery time. It is how you're moving. It is testing all these other things and playing other sports and being active and eating a particular way, especially in that particular time frame, because you may be dealing with injuries that you had from when you were younger that you may or may not have taken care of correctly as you came into that age. Maybe you're still active, but you're not like you were, and you're sporadic in your activity because you have kids, and now you're not getting sleep, so you're not training like you were when you were a collegiate athlete, but you still see yourself as an athlete. So you're either a weekend warrior type, or you're a sporadic workout person where and this is, and I've been in this area a lot of times too, where what your body should be able to do, but it really doesn't have the tools to do it. Well, actually, it can do it, but the remnants of that are going to be really bad. The after effects are going to be really bad because you don't have that, the same level of capacity or the same protection from youth and from time and from recovery and all that. So I think now is where you broaden. I don't think you need to go easy or be afraid of weight still or anything like that. Like it's not I will never, and I'll say this as we get into the older ones, I will never say that there is a time where it's like, you're too old, shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z. I will never, ever, ever say that. What I will say is push what makes you feel good, but here's how we maximize all of that for your life, because now working out again, like you're hoping that you get your 1 hour of time in because you got to take your kids around, or you're now dealing with the stress of jobs, and are you going to be able to pay for the gym now? Maybe you're paying on your own because your parents aren't paying for it. There's a lot of these other variables that kick in, and this is now your stress relief. It's your hedge against life. It's recovery. It's making you feel good still. It's allowing you to still feel youthful and be youthful. Still feel good even though like you're now a little bit more wise than you were when you were in your 20s. So same stuff, but really learning the breadth of the fitness methodology and the lifestyle methodology of it, for sure.
One thing that I love about it is like just coaching over the years and stuff is so that kid I was talking about who's the rower now, he was 18. We also have a member at our gym who is she turned 78 this year, and they work out in the same class.
Yeah, they're great.
And they're both they're doing the same thing. Like Pat, who's a little bit older, like she can't squat all the way down and stuff, but she's getting intensity wise and fulfillment wise the same workout that Miles, who's 18 and a college athlete, is getting in the same hour block.
Yeah, the best. I love it.
That's my favorite part.
You know what's great is when you have those relationships too, because like I just my 9 o'clock class, we have a 65-year-old and she's like the matriarch of that class. Like the class can't start until she gets there, which is usually 9:07, so it's our 9:07 class. And then like, you know, the college kids, like the girls and the boys that are in there, it's like they all have an extra grandma now. And she loves it. I mean, she, you know, gives them little presents when she sees them. And, you know, if there's someone's having a show or a dance or a competition, she's like, you know, go up to the college to go. I mean, like, it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Pat, she brings me, she has family that lives like 4 hours, like in the mountains. She always brings me back chocolates whenever she comes back, and they're so good.
Yeah, nice.
And the first time she's like, I know you like to eat fast. You have to eat these one at a time, and you have to enjoy them.
That's such an old lady thing to bring back. Here's some chocolates. Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and then honestly, that kind of just continues. Like I know we were talking about like the 30 to 40, but then like it kind of just keeps continuing.
Well, I like what Bill said too, is like the things that I think younger athletes don't understand in the moment they're in, which is not their fault, or even coaches, is life as you continue or grow older. The time you have for the things that you either like to do or are able to do just gets taken away from you because of the realities of life and things that take priority, right? Your job, your family, your kids, X, Y, and Z that are just like taking hours out of your day. And, you know, when you had all the time in the world, right? It's like, well, I had all the time in the world because I didn't have to come home at 6 o'clock because I'm married. And now it's like we eat dinner together. We do these things together. Or I have to go pick up my kids from school. I got to drop my kids off to school. It's like all these hours in the day start getting taken away from you. And, you know, Bill expanded on the systems and processes, but it's like, it's a lot of life adjustments where from 30 to 40, as those things naturally tend to occur, some a little earlier, some a little later. But like that block 30 to 40, like that's when people get married. That's when people switch jobs or land something big, or they start to have kids, and then kids start getting into school. And like all of those things, like you need to start developing systems in place for your life of, do I have to work out in the morning every day at 5 o'clock? Not because I want to, because it's the only time I can, and it sets my day up the rest wonderfully. I might not enjoy when the alarm clock goes off, but I'm sure happy when my head hits the pillow at night that I got it in. Versus, oh, I'll do it in the afternoon, and then life gets in the way, and then you get frustrated or it's stressing you out all day, and you don't get your workout, and then your head hits the pillow, and you're just pissed off because your day didn't go according to plan, right? But figuring that out from 30 to 40, which I just exited as of the last year, now that I'm 41, turning 42 this year, is, that. And realizing where those things shift and balance in. If I can't work out that day, I better have a decent nutrition setup so I'm not just going to like set myself back a week because I decided to like go drinking or eat like crap for 2 days in a row because why? I've either felt sorry for myself or I wanted to indulge, which is totally fine too. But I need to make sure as I have that routine set. And for me is like, if I get a bit more intensity than maybe, you know, my age is, I think, keep thinking I'm 25. It's like, I may need to spend a day off and recover, or right. And like, when can I do that? Am I going to skip a workout? So like 30 to 40 is like, systems in place. Life's throwing you a bunch of curveballs every day of the week, every week of the month, every month. Like it doesn't stop and it never stays the same, but weathering. And I think the last part of that is like weathering things that don't go according to plan. Right? It's like, oh, I can't work out this entire week because something came up that is real life oriented. How do I react to that? Do I have something in place that I can at least adapt to that emotionally or mentally when it comes to that? And 30 to 40 is that range where you do a lot of trial by fire of life, challenging the things that you were used to doing whenever you wanted to.
I agree.
Yes. that.
And I think the coach is important too. It was like, I remember my buddy, he had his first kid and we were all competing for regionals at the time. It's like, yeah, bro, just come on to the gym. He's like, I can't. Like, why not? Just come on. And then now after I had kids, like, dude, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. So like those life lessons as an athlete, but I think as a coach and owner too, really would help like the way you interact with your athletes of all age demographics, not just in the gym, how they're doing thrusters and pull-ups, but like how they come to the gym and how often they show up, what state they're in, whatever life's throwing at them, I think is a huge weapon to have as a coach, knowing those things that are like real world stuff that they're coming to the gym to escape from. So sometimes, you know, a little white gloving goes a long way.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and it's, you know, giving them some grace with that. Like, you know, we want to talk virtuosity. We know sometimes there are people that are coming in and they're kind of glass-eyed over, their hair's all messed up or whatever, and you know that like they just had a kid, whatever. You know, it's the dad trying to do his thing, the mom's at home working, you know, with the baby, and the guy's coming in to sit there and be like, you know, I'm gonna make sure you squat correctly today. It's like, dude, you need for that guy, it's like, man, high five. Like, that's the cheerleader. You want to fire him up. Big win for showing up, man. I know you got an hour of sleep last night. Great job. You came in here. You made it in. Cool. Yeah, but I couldn't lift that. I don't even care. You're here. Yeah. Get it in. Check the box. High five. And then go back to whatever it is that you're doing. And then I think one of the other things, you know, with that, the stress part and everything, you know, we talked about the building the foundation at the very young age for their competitive time or their really active time. This part right here, you are building a foundation, a musculoskeletal foundation for your later life. The muscle tone that you're building now, because they always say that like you start getting like up over 40, you know, your muscle mass decreases. I mean, and not just a little bit, like depending on what study you want to read, it's drastic. Yeah. And so you have to be taking steps to battle against that. And the thing is like, I know myself now, I'm not as big as I was when I was training and competing when I was in my 40s. But I can go like and I think the nutrition part really helps out with this side of it is I don't need to work out every single day to feel like I still look okay. Like to feel like, you know, my muscles are working. I mean, like whatever. I was an athlete for a long time, so like my knees are hurting, and you know my back will be a little tight, and shoulders a little banged up. But I'm not able to do what I want to do. I can still do everything I want to do. I'm not working out every single day. I can still hop in and go hard when I want to. I can still do whatever activities outside the real world, outside the gym walls, and know that I'm okay because I have a foundation that allows me to do that. So you go from like being a competitor and being able to have life experience to I need to have a bulletproof system so that I can be, I mean, I don't think about my age, not because I'm trying to gaslight myself into realizing that, yeah, I'm going to be 55 next month, but like, I don't want that to stop me. I want to be able to do whatever I can do. So if I can do that and I'm feeling okay, like that's what I want. Like my goal now is not competing. My goal is I want to get to 100. Yeah. So I want to be a functional 100, and that to do that, I need this. This is my hedge. Not even the fitness part, but the flexibility part. Like I'm not talking like I don't need to ramp my heart rate up all the time. I do because I like that. It makes me feel good. But like the flexibility part, the mobility part, core to extremity, making sure everything works that way. The nutrition part, making sure that if I'm not working out all the time, at least I have the right nutrients in my body to allow me to do whatever I'm doing. So I might not work out all that day, but maybe I had 6 classes that I coached. Yeah. So I stretched out 6 times, during that day. So it's a hedge, man. It really is.
Last one for that, Bill, is that you want to get to 100, but functionally.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Like that is it's such an important addendum to that phrase. Like, I want to live to 100. I'm like, no, you don't.
Not on a tube. I don't.
Yep. Not in a wheelchair, not on a walker, not just like walking around because this all hurts, not hunched over because you've lost all your bone mass and core strength. And now you just got that question mark back. That was my thought when I was like, every old person I knew growing up is just like this.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, oh God, is this what getting older is? This is horrible. And it's like, yeah, how we get to 100. And I think, as we go from 30 to 40 and then like 40 to 50, like I feel like there's a full circle moment, and you touched on that just a second ago, is now you're looking at what did I focus on 10 to 20? Right. I want to make sure that, okay, I'm not chasing a sub 3-minute Fran anymore or trying to intentionally PR my clean and jerk and snatch. I want to lift as much weight as I can, but like the PR days may be few and far between, if not gone entirely, especially depending on when you started. But I want to make sure is like I'm still moving really well, and I'm not taking shortcuts to go fast, or I'm not taking that risk necessarily to go heavy and not focusing on the technique to get that lift versus just the aggression to get the lift. And I'm focusing on the mobility and the recovery. It's like you almost you come back around to that 10 to 20-year-old focus and attention to details and what intensity really is for the intent that we needed at the time that we should use it.
Yeah.
Is 40, 50, like I'm back to that stage. Like you're still doing awesome stuff. You're still going hard whenever you want to go hard. That relative intensity may have shifted, but the intent of my intensity is the same.
Oh yeah.
Right. The times may look different. The weights may look different, but my movement, my capabilities, and my function is still peak, because those are the things that you have absolute control of. Right? How well you move, what you're doing as you do that. The weights and times, those may change, but how you do all those things in between, I think that's the one you want to hang on to the most.
So I used to do my master's seminars, like before COVID hit and everything. I'd travel around and talk to master's athletes and just give my just pitch on getting older, how to train, how to grow gracefully, older gracefully, and that kind of thing. And one of the questions that I always got was, when do the PRs stop? Like at what age? And I'm like, I always thought that was such a weird question, because it's a valid question, because that's a fear that, like, if I'm not PRing, then that means that I can't do. The cool thing with CrossFit, and we talked about all of the different elements and all the things you have to learn and all the different things, is you can still PR. It may be in different things, but there are still areas to PR in. And even if you're not PRing necessarily, you knew what it felt like when you were pushing really hard, and that adrenaline rush and that excitement of like, oh man, one more, can I get one more rep? Can I pick up that bar one more time? Like that doesn't go away. So I'm not training for anything right now. Like I don't have an event that I'm training for. I'm training for me. I'm training for life, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not training for an event. But when I'm working out, I still have that voice that pops in, and I'm like, dude, I want to put this bar on. You pick up that damn bar. You get one more rep. Do not stop. I have no idea. Don't put the goddamn thing down. Like that battle, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel young. Because it's the fight. The fight is still in the dog. You know what I mean? It's still there. Whether it's with someone else that I got to go against, or it's me. And I'm going to be with me until the last day that I'm on this earth. So I might as well get used to that fight and that battle. So, but I never want to ever be told that you can't do something or shouldn't do something. Like, how dare someone say that you're 60, you should not be doing ring muscle ups. If you don't want to do them, fine. But for, these master's programs out there where they put it in these blocks, and it drives me crazy that they don't do a certain movement in this age group because of X, Y, and Z, because of this age, because of, it's unsafe. Well, I can do it. So now I don't get to do it because you think it's unsafe. Well, you're not even my age. How do you know? Yeah. Tell me what I can't do.
It was interesting that the Open this year, we had a guy age into the 55 plus category. And so the first workout, the dumbbell snatches and I look over and he's doing 35-pound dumbbell. I'm like, why is he going scaled? Did he not know the right? And because he does the 50, he works out with everybody. Like, he's 50-pound dumbbells is his normal thing. And he's like, and I was like, I went over at him like, hey, Baird, and I was like, do you know you did a 35? He's like, yeah, I only have to do 35. And I was like, okay, cool. We're on, you did the right thing. I forgot you aged up, but I was worried. I'm like, oh no, is he going to have to do this again?
So Bill has, for years leading up to this time, says, I will never not use a 50.
Mm-hmm.
And he was true to his word this open, is that even though he is in the 55 plus, he did all of the workouts with the standard open weights and skills.
Still probably beat me too.
I feel it's such a weird, I feel like I don't want anyone to think anything about that at all. It's the same reason for why I didn't do the Masters when the Masters came out in my age groups. And like, well, Bill, you should be signed. You won the division. You should be signed up for the Masters. I'm like, I'm not in it for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in it because I just want to do the race. And so here I am now in the 5 division, and I'm doing the race with the other weights and the other movements even. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
And what sucks is like, I'm not even on the regular leaderboard. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Because I'm in the 55 division. It's a whole nother leaderboard.
Yeah, because it's technically a different workout.
Yeah.
It's a different workout.
Yeah.
So I can't even be on that.
Yeah, because that guy, when I was looking, I'm like, how come he's not showing up like the men for my gym and stuff? I was looking up and I was like, why isn't he? Did he not register? I was freaking out and then realized like, oh no, it's a separate leaderboard. So,
which I don't really like that.
Yeah,
not a fan of that.
You're talking about like maintaining like muscle tone and stuff like that earlier, Bill. Pat, that woman I mentioned, who's 78 years old. She's been coming to the gym for probably 3 years now. So her physical therapist, he sets up in my gym. He's there a couple of days a week. And so she came to us through him, and we got her like she came, like, she always comes in like so proud, and she's like, my bones are denser.
Dude,
her bones
how much?
are denser.
How much? Did she tell you?
I don't know the actual percentages, but she's like, I got tested 2 years ago, and I got tested whatever. I just got the results back from the new one. And she's like, my bones are denser than they were when I was 76. And
sorry, keep going.
Yeah. Well, there was that one. And then she had lupus as a kid. So she's had like multiple surgeries over the course of her life, like tendons and ligaments. Everything has been replaced or had surgery on it. A couple of years ago, she came in and she's like, my doctor was asking me why I had quad muscles. She's like, you've never had quad muscles. Why do you have quad muscles? And she's like, I do CrossFit.
Dude, it's the best.
This little old lady. Yeah.
That's the best. We have the old lady, the matron of the 907 class, Ursula. She was all excited. She texted me, Ursula. She's so great. She was, so she's been with us for 11 years now. Was never a workout person. She has dual citizenship in Ireland. And 2 years ago, I think she was the second fittest woman in her age group from Ireland.
No way.
Cool. She's like, oh my gosh, look at this. And she's like, she just thinks she's silly little Ursula here in the gym and just kind of does her thing. She hit me up and said, I went to the doctor the other day. They did my bone mass. She's like, my bone mass has increased by 4% since the last time I got that test. And I'm like, she's like, I just thought it was cool. And I'm like, that's not cool. That's fucking amazing. Like that's life-saving. You're not going to fall and everything's going to shatter. That's it right there. That's it. That is what CrossFit is right there.
So this is what I pray we get to a certain point at the games level that we can do. Because I always think, especially with the older demographics, sickness, fitness, wellness, that continuum that CrossFit has, right? Hedging against disease, hedging against sickness, hedging against life, right? And I feel like we have the perfect sample size of what CrossFit can do for every age demographic that the world out there thinks about the certain number. And if we could take voluntarily, you have to opt in for this, is like get everyone's blood pressure, everyone's vitals, everyone's bone density, everyone's weight, everyone's height. And we have now an elite fit level 45 to 49-year-old male and female, or 65 to 64. And instead of being like, we don't know what's really good, we know it went up, you're like, listen, this is what it could possibly, like, this is it. This is the top level of the top of what you could have. And the fact that we don't have that information yet we could get that information, I think would completely change the way the world looks at CrossFit, the medical community looks at CrossFit, physical therapists, chiropractors, internal medicines, all those people look at CrossFit. It's like, look at who these people are. Look at their bone density. Look at their resting heart rate. Look at their blood pressure. Look at their cholesterol levels. Look at their weight relative to their height. Instead of using this BMI BS, it's like what that could do for CrossFit and insurance and health. Like we are redefining what it means to age and be healthy.
Yeah.
And if we could get those numbers, is like, hey, our average person in CrossFit from 65 to 70 is this X, Y, and Z, all other things that everybody looks at when they get older and they go to the doctor.
You're right, dude. All the data's there. All the information's there.
Right there, we have the perfect human experiment of what it means to age in fitness.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, how do I increase my bone density? Go to CrossFit. Here's why. The average person that goes to the CrossFit gym in your age division or age demographic, these are their metrics and numbers. Right? Not the elite, but like do it at I don't know how hard it is to do that. Obviously, I'm just like, here, you do this.
Right.
But man, what cool information to have.
Yeah. So that physical therapist, Dr. Zach Harmon, who's at my gym, he's all out of network. So he just does that. But like what people come in and pay him for a 1-hour session is almost what it costs for a 1-month gym membership now.
Right.
And it's so funny because he's not actively trying to recruit members for me, but I have gained members from, because he'll start talking to him. He's like, if you just like join the gym, you would save money. You don't have to see me. And he's trying to
he's like, hey, you got to stop doing such a good job.
But it's true. And like, that's because so many people now are going out of network because the insurance system is so messed up. Like if you're paying for 2 physical therapist visits, that's more than a CrossFit gym membership.
Yep.
And anymore, the coaches are becoming, and I kind of love the fact that CrossFit is making owners have their level 2 of like, you have to continue your education. Coaches are getting better to where we're not physical therapists, but we are trying to bridge that gap to it and bring people into a healthier, like, overall environment.
Yep.
I agree.
Wishful thinking.
I agree.
Yeah. It's right there. It's so close. I mean, that's the demographic we're like, I don't need to convince a 20-year-old to start CrossFit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But anyone over the age of 40 who has not done anything fitness or competitive, like you get to an ex-college guy over 40, like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I can be this again? Like, yes, you can. It's like, all right, I'm sold. I'm like, all right, that was easy.
Yeah. Cool. Guys, this was fun. Thanks for
It was good.
Yeah, bro, that was great.
It was good.
Thanks for coming on. And so real quick, where can people find you guys? Like, pimp your own Instagrams, pimp the podcast, whatever you want to promote.
Podcast is very simple. It's at Get With The Programming on Instagram and YouTube. We have I guess that's really it for the podcast. Myself is just at Chase_Ingram, spelled correctly, obviously.
Right. Ingraham.
Those of you guys that are just like phonically driven.
There you go. And I got mine on there. Look at that. At Bill Grundler.
Oh yeah.
Look
at you.
Cool. And I'll throw that in for listeners or people watching, I'll throw that in the description so you can click on that and go follow them. Guys, thank you again for coming on, and people who tuned in and hung out. Hopefully you hung around. This was a fun one. I really enjoyed this conversation a lot. So thank you for tuning into the Cult of Recreationalism. You can find us on podcast services everywhere, YouTube, and then Bub's Naturals. Just Google it, whatever you're on, it is Bub's Naturals. You'll find it. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. So while you're there, give us a like, smash that like button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff.
Right, smash
it. But yeah, every positive review helps and gets us in front of more people. So guys, thanks again for joining us on the Cult of Recreationalism.
Thank you. That was awesome.